a whole lot of stuff I've written that I haven't posted much about it. But let me look, taking a look back here at kind of a timeline of it. Uh, Everything that I've done, um, might be interesting to read out. Um, Start with the 9th of November, 2022. I began working at Walgreens, and my usual shift was from 4 p.m. to midnight. And I began to notice regular customers. One was an elderly man in a wheelchair who had a number of distinguishing characteristics. Of course, I'm talking about Mark Niemczyk, who you can see up there, wearing that vest. One was an elderly man in a wheelchair who had a number of distinguishing characteristics. One, he wore a fake bulletproof vest with three large emblems or badges of the FDNY, NYPD, and Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Under this were the words Heroes of 9/11. Two, he wore a Vietnam veteran cap. Three, in front of him on the footrest of the wheelchair was a 5-gallon plastic bucket with the words Show Your Appreciation with a Small Donation. And four, he carried a large 4-foot by 3-foot sign with right wing political messaging, also resting on the footrest. As a cashier in the Walgreens with a view of the entrance, I observed that this man would come in almost every night and follow the same routine. Upon entering, he would place the sign on the ground, leaning against a display counter so that all customers entering the store would see it. And by the way, I've got many pictures from that time, from before and after I identified him, that can show that. He would prop up his scam sign in front of the store and hobnob with the security guards, both in the Walgreens, Arcadia security guards, and Fremont Street security guards who would come in to the Walgreens regularly, and even police who would come into the Walgreens regularly and take a moment to stop and say hello to their friend Mark Niemczyk, who is one of the most notorious convicted scammers, stolen valor, and 9/11 charity fraud in American history, and who made national news. Whether or not those police knew that, I will speculate that they did. Let's put it that way. And if you watch my videos and read the descriptions and read other things that I've written, all the evidence makes that pretty clear to me, but you can make up your own mind. Anyway, let me get back to my narrative again that I wrote out. This was actually written as an intake letter for law offices. I also sent it to law enforcement and media, but it's kind of a play-by-play timeline of what happened. So anyway, as a cashier with the front of the entrance upon the, like I said, okay. So as a cashier with a view of the entrance, I observed that this man, Niemczyk, would come in almost every night and follow the same routine. Upon entering, he would place the sign on the ground, leaning against a display counter so that all customers entering the store would see it. After shopping for about 15 minutes, he would get in the checkout line to pay, which he always did by reaching in directly into the bucket at his feet and withdrawing cash from it. Let me get 1 second here. Withdrawing cash from it. Not only did I observe this, I also accepted the cash as a cashier on several occasions. Then he would return to the front of the entrance where his sign was. This was also the part of the store where at least 2 Arcadia security guards would habitually stand, although from time to time they would walk around the store also. Did I miss any questions or comments in here? Whoa. All right. Then he would return to the front of the entrance where his sign was. This was also the part of the store where at least 2 Arcadia security guards would habitually stand. He would stay there, sometimes talking to them, sometimes not. No other employees commented on any of this. When I made inquiries as to who he was, no one could tell me anything, except an employee. And I have the name written in here, but I'm not going to say it publicly. Not yet, anyway. Who spoke highly but vaguely of him. They said, quote, "He's been in documentaries," but would not elaborate. All employees knew him as Mark. Several months passed this way. The employee I'm talking about there is one of the most interesting parts of this story. Like I said, they told me he's been in documentaries. Since then, I have been able to figure out that what they meant by he's been in documentaries refers to a video that was done by a Washington, D.C. Filmmaker who films right-wing extremist events and rallies in Washington, D.C. One of which is in my YouTube playlists, actually, shows Mark Niemczyk in Washington, D.C., in front of the White House itself, at a rally in 2011. But, and he was indeed interviewed. You can watch it. That is what they meant by he's been in documentaries. So the incredible thing is that Niemczyk was showing that video, and it's the YouTube account is called Reporting from the Fringes. Where's my playlist? So I'll look it up. It's a very interesting video, and it shows Mark Niemczyk in Las Vegas, like I said. If you go to my playlists on YouTube, I have one that's all about, it's called Niemczyk 2010 to 2014, the 9/11 truck scam, targeting Tea Party members. This is the news report about it. That just started playing at the top. That's a let's see, 2013 or sorry, no, 2014 footage of the sentencing in the New Jersey courtroom by Asbury Park Press. Kathleen Hopkins reporting. She was a reporter in New Jersey who covered the 9/11 truck scam, which Niemczyk was convicted of. But what I was going to mention about that documentary is my title is, well, I have them both. I have a short clip that I kind of ripped. The video itself on YouTube is called Fanatics Bully Praying Man at the White House. And the man in that case is a Muslim activist who would pray in front of the White House at that time to, to show people that Muslims are Americans. Uh, they're not what they've been made out to be by hateful people, especially at that time. Like I said, when the Tea Party movement was on the rise, and this was a Tea Party event. But okay. So it's called Fanatics Bully Praying Man at the White House. And at you see Mark Niemczyk there. You see his partner Thomas Scalgione there, who was convicted of him with him in the scam. And you also see Terry Jones, who was deeply connected with the scam. This is the part about Niemczyk. Starts at 9:51. I'm going to flip it around because it's important. And it's if I'm going to give the whole background of this story, you've got to begin with this video. Okay, whoa, sorry, TikTok. That part was not part of the interview. That's Mark Niemczyk. That's a lie. No. And then it goes on. Like I said, the name of the account is Reporting from the Fringes of American Politics. It was posted on YouTube March 4th, 2011. So that's about 9 months into the scam, which began June 2010. And like I said, the employee there in the Walgreens was when I expressed skepticism about who this guy was who was in our store every night in this wheelchair with this donation bucket. They kind of fired back at me in defense of him, saying he's been in documentaries. What they meant is this documentary. It couldn't have been any other. And since then, but it's not flattering to him. The incredible thing is that Niemczyk would have been showing this video to people to try on Fremont Street to try to, burnish his cred, saying, "Hey, look, I'm famous. I've been in documentaries. I'm a hero." But he was convicted. This was a fraud. This was a scam. He was convicted of for doing this stuff. Those T-shirts were obtained fraudulently because he claimed to be a charity, and the money that he got from them what did not go to a charity, and that's why he was convicted of charity fraud. But because people on Fremont are apparently media illiterate, a lot of them believed this and used this video or saw this video and believed his lies. The audacity of Niemczyk to do that is very much in keeping with him. If you want to check that video out, it's like I said, it's in my playlists on YouTube under the Mark Niemczyk 2010, 2014 scamming or the 9/11 truck scam. It's Eddie Becker Films, at Eddie Becker Films on YouTube, reporting from the fringes of American politics. No, sorry. That's an example of why so much of this is too hot to handle for TikTok. And I tried to post a copy of that video before on TikTok, which, like many of my other videos about Niemczyk, has been banned on TikTok, but not on YouTube, which is why YouTube is my main platform. So anyway, let me get back to the narrative. That's right. He can walk. Don't want to drag. Here we go. So anyway, so they said he's been in documentaries, but would not elaborate. All employees knew him as Mark. Several months passed this way. And then we come to 4/10, 2023. I noticed, so this is about, so this is 18 days before the confrontation, which again was the 28th of April, which is 9 months ago exactly, which is why I'm doing this today, to give a kind of a background. So April 10th, 2023, I noticed something new. The back of the fake bulletproof vest had writing on it, which read, quote, "Everything I ever needed to know about Islam, I learned on 9/11. Keep back 200 feet." This hate speech gave me both new suspicions and new determination to find out the man's identity. I also informed the manager of the Walgreens, and I worked at that Walgreens at the time. I informed the managers of the hate speech and my suspicions of his charity, because he had show your appreciation with a small donation on the front of the bucket. And I requested he be banned from the store, because how could I, as a cashier, take his money? How could any of us? And again, he would reach directly into the bucket to pay for his purchases. And he was in the store almost every night. Okay, so I later talked to him in the store and expressed my dislike of the hate speech, to which he screamed insults before another employee, and I'm not going to name them here now either, interrupted. And I explained to him my views on anti-Muslim hate speech and why it was dangerous and wrong. About a week later, I was called into the office by another assistant manager, whose name I will mention, Kiana Alexandria Music. Kiana was colluding with Niemczyk. I can say that definitively. From the start, she demonstrated loyalty to him that was kind of veiled in apathy. But I knew them to be close for the whole months that I was working there, and I found it extremely suspicious that she didn't have much to say about that hate speech or my concerns and my request that he be banned from the store. She just shrugged it off and pretended not to care, and I now know that that was because she was actively colluding with him. But to go on, again, this is April 10th. I now have reason to believe that she was operating under false statements against me, made to her by Niemczyk, who was already trying to get me fired from the store by spreading lies and rumors about me to the other employees and security guards each time he came into the store. And again, that is only because at this time I did not know his name. I did not know any of the background of the 9/11 truck scam. I simply had seen the hate speech, everything I ever need to know about Islam I learned in 9/11 on the back of his vest. It wasn't until the 28th that my internet research using that phrase have finally connected it to his past. So yeah, to the other employees. Each time he came into the store, and being a professional con artist was effective in turning them against me. I requested again that he be banned from the store. Meanwhile, using the phrase on the back of the vest, I was hitting dead ends in my internet research. And then we come to April 28th, again, that fateful day, which is exactly 9 months ago, in which I'm doing this live today. Sorry, 9 months ago. So, April 28th, 2023, about 4 p.m., I was again doing internet research with the phrase, everything I need to know about Islam I learned on 9/11, the phrase on the back of Niemczyk's vest, and I finally identified him. Mark Anthony Niemczyk. I was shocked by what I found. Many online articles from major national media news outlets between 2012 to 2014, which detailed his arrest and conviction in New Jersey for a charity fraud so outrageous that I could hardly believe what I was reading. And then I give a list of some of the news articles. You can go find them yourself if you Google Mark Anthony Niemczyk or Mark Niemczyk. The CBS News article is very good. Kind of gives a good rundown. It's called New Jersey Man Mark Niemczyk, Thomas Scalgione sued for alleged 9/11 charity scam. There's also a Time magazine article titled 9/11 charity scam. Thomas Scalgione, Mark Niemczyk plead guilty. And the USA Today article, which was the first one I stumbled upon, called or titled Men Create Bogus 9/11 Charity, Swipe Cash Raised. So in my research, it became clear that a man named Don Shipley was central to the story. Shipley is a retired U.S. Navy SEAL who has spent many years and built up a large online following with his YouTube channel and website, which is extremesealexperience.com, where he exposes and confronts stolen valor frauds and gets requests to verify stolen where was I? And gets requests to verify suspected stolen valor frauds. And I would suggest you check out Don Shipley's website. It's really cool. Also his YouTube channel. He's not on TikTok, only YouTube. So he says, I continue. He began receiving reports from New York and New Jersey in 2011, which led to Mark Niemczyk being exposed and ultimately convicted, largely as a result of Shipley's efforts. I was also able to find PDFs of the criminal indictment and the final consent judgment from the New Jersey Attorney General's office, which prosecuted Niemczyk. And those are all posted on my Twitter and my YouTube community tab. With all the details of the 9/11 truck scam in front of me, I realized that what Niemczyk was doing now in Las Vegas on Fremont Street, soliciting donations on Fremont Street, was nothing less than a version of that very same scam which he was already notorious for. And again, made national news for. 3 points. Number one, the current scam in Las Vegas relied on stolen valor, as had the last. Meaning, Mark Niemczyk was lying about having a military record, specifically being a Navy SEAL. I also have a news article from 2006, which I have not posted yet. I've been really remiss in posting on my Twitter all those old news articles. But the first mention of Niemczyk in print claiming stolen valor, and specifically claiming to be a Navy SEAL, appears in a news article about some skydivers who had a terrible accident. Their parachutes malfunctioned, and they fell to earth and were unalived. It was kind of a big local story there in New Jersey. One of the witnesses was Mark Niemczyk, and he was interviewed in that article. And the writer, the journalist who wrote the article and interviewed him, said Mark Niemczyk, who was a Navy SEAL for 22 years, which is obviously not true, and which that journalist obviously did not fact check before publishing. But it proves that it's the earliest evidence that Niemczyk was, in fact, using stolen valor for a very long time. I also have evidence. Sorry, I'm just going through something here on my phone. I also have evidence that and this is not in print. This is what I've been able to glean from New Jersey sources who knew Niemczyk over 20 years ago. And they report that he was also claiming to be a Navy SEAL. Indeed, in his house, there were a bunch of things on the wall that suggested he had a illustrious military background, including being a Navy SEAL. And he also talked about basically combat operations that he'd been in, so he claimed, which was all lies. But of course, the source at the time did not know that. And so that's the first instance where we have him claiming stolen valor. Number two, The 9/11 truck scammers would put out multiple donation buckets, in addition to t-shirt sales. This was the exact type of 5-gallon plastic bucket he collected money in and then reached in to pay me and other cashiers at the Walgreens. So, a decade after the 9/11 truck scam, when all the details about it came out in the media and in the courts, and after he was convicted for the 9/11 truck scam, he was actually doing a version of it in plain sight, audaciously, right here in Las Vegas, on the other side of the country, shamelessly, and yet under the radar until I exposed it. As incredible as that sounds, it's actually very much in keeping with the kind of man Mark Niemczyk is. The more you learn about him, the more shocking it becomes. The sheer audacity of the man, the sheer greed, and the sheer determination to keep the scam going, up to and including retaliating against me, which is what we'll get into in a bit. Number 3, the vest I had seen him wearing with the hate speech on the back and 3 law enforcement emblems on the front was in fact printed with the exact same words and graphics as the t-shirts that were used as evidence in his trial, and which he was specifically told to surrender to authorities in the final consent judgment. The rear of the 9/11 truck on the tailgate, printed in large letters, the rear of the 9/11 truck was printed with the exact same "Everything I need to know about Islam I learned on 9/11. Keep back 200 feet." And the 200 feet part didn't make any sense until I realized that he put it on the back of the truck, the 9/11 truck, which he would drive around scamming in New Jersey with. But keep back 200 feet, why would you keep back 200 feet with a pickup truck? In America, on the highway, for example, you might not want somebody to tailgate you, right? But actually, where that phrase comes from, the 200 feet, keep back 200 feet, was on the back of military vehicles in Iraq. And it was a warning to Iraqis to keep back from that vehicle 200 feet. Or else, basically, you would be fired on, or you would be subject to being fired on. If you got closer than 200 feet, you would be perceived as a threat to that military vehicle. So that's what Niemczyk put on the back of his pickup truck, which again had hate speech against Muslims. Pretty audacious. So continuing on with the narrative in the Walgreens, at approximately 7 p.m. that day, having spent several hours doing internet research, I made the short walk from my home to the Walgreens and asked to speak to the manager on duty, who I'll name Jeff, and told him a summary of what I had learned. And again, this is the 28th. And said that I expected Niemczyk to be arrested soon, which turns out to be kind of naive in hindsight. I still believe that he will be arrested, but it'll take longer than expected. So I expected Niemczyk to be arrested soon, but that of course he should be banned from the Walgreens in the meantime. I had witnessed many customers getting banned for minor issues. as his obvious fraud made it impossible for Walgreens to accept his money, and especially the cashiers who would be taking money directly from a source we now knew was from a source we now knew was a despicable, disgusting, blatant fraud. Having informed the manager, Jeff, and gotten his assurance that he would deliver the information to higher Walgreens management, I told one more employee I met in the store about Niemczyk and assumed every employee would know by the time Niemczyk came in at his usual time that night. I returned home and continued doing research, making calls to law enforcement and local media, and drafting emails to both local media outlets and to the um, individual journalists who had covered the 9/11 truck scam in the past, not only in New Jersey, but for national media outlets. One second. All right. So as I did so, I became increasingly angry about what Niemczyk had done in the past, what he was doing now, and that he had the audacity to tell the very lies he had already been so publicly exposed for. And the personal affront to me as a cashier who had made an who had been made an unwitting accomplice in his crimes. Of course, the main source of my outrage was that he was decked out in patriotic gear, American flags on the back of the wheelchair, and of course the veteran hat. It said Vietnam veteran, and the use of those emblems on the front of the vest. To me, it was just such an affront, which is why I was so outraged, and why what happened next should make sense to you. To continue with this narrative that I wrote months ago, going back to Don Shipley, the real Navy SEAL, Don Shipley's website, extremesealexperience.com, contained videos of him confronting stolen valor scammers, both in person and on the phone. And it seemed perfectly natural for me to do the same. Indeed, I was already planning to confront Niemczyk before I heard of Don Shipley that very day. I was outraged by the stolen valor, the 9/11 charity scamming, and the fact that he, of all people, would dare to insult Muslims who have always served proudly in the American Armed Forces, in parentheses, or deny their patriotism with his lies. You know, for Mark Niemczyk, who is, I mean, just a traitor, a treasonous POS, to impugn the patriotism of Muslims with that hate speech, which he invented and used in the 9/11 truck scam, and then was also using in the Vegas version of that scam, was infuriating. I think it should be infuriating to all Americans, but apparently not. In this day and age when hate speech is pretty normalized. And deny their patriotism. Niemczyk dehumanizes Muslims and calls them, while he lies about being a patriot himself, in the most audacious way, repeating the same scam he was already publicly and infamously convicted of. So I returned to the Walgreens shortly after 11 p.m., since that was when Niemczyk usually came to the Walgreens. A different assistant manager, who I will name again, Myron Hooks, was on duty, and I told him a summary of what I had learned about Niemczyk and what I had told Jeff earlier that evening. To my surprise, he said Jeff hadn't told him anything. I repeated that he must surely be banned from the store if he came in that night, to which Hooks responded in a non-committal, disinterested way and walked away. At that very moment, I saw Niemczyk entering the store, and I turned on my camera, which I had not intended to do until then. And when he passed me and went into a far corner aisle, I confronted him, starting at 11:35 p.m. And of course, there's a link to the YouTube video, which again is banned in its entirety on TikTok, as a lot of my videos are. But it's in the full version is on YouTube. April 28th, 9 months ago exactly. What is its title on the YouTube? Again, let me take a moment to plug my YouTube, because if you're interested in this story at all, that's where you need to go. It's the most complete and well organized of the Exposing Mark Niemczyk platforms. And the descriptions have a lot of information. So, yeah, the title of the confrontation video is 4/28/23, November or April 28th. The title is Mark Niemczyk, 9/11 charity fraud, guilty, hashtag stolen valor, confronted, hashtag Las Vegas, read description. And while we're at it, and let me play that. Apparently, people aren't very interested in what I'm saying, but I'm going to play. I'll play it with the sound off. How about that? So that TikTok will not have a problem with it. Hopefully. Again, I would encourage you to watch that video. This being the 9 month mark confrontation video. 9 months ago, inside Walgreens, Beach, the same day that I identified earlier this day, 11:35 p.m. at night. I'm telling him the details that I've learned earlier that day about the 9/11 truck scheme. Um, expressing my disapproval with my move to TikTok. Very good. And if you look here in the video, you'll see that's the bucket. With the words on the front, show your appreciation with a small donation. And that's what he would carry in the store each night for scamming. And you'll see that I look in it in the video, and there's his cash. He would reach into that bucket to pay for purchases. These donation buckets were part of the fraud that he was convicted of in 2013. And we see him here a decade later using those buckets again to pull off a version of the 9/11 truck scam, basically just without the truck and without the sale of t-shirts. And the confrontation goes on for 2 more minutes in the store. Until I'm asked to leave by. Again, you can watch this full video. It's on YouTube in its entirety, and it is on TikTok. It's pinned on TikTok, but that's only an edited version or a clipped version because TikTok considers that a little too harsh or too hot to handle for TikTok. But back to me and the narrative. Um, so actually, okay, so the first part of the video inside the store is only 2 minutes long. It ends with Myron Hooks saying, "Go, John, go." And and I'm John, obviously. And he immediately turned around, the first part of the video, confrontation video, inside the store is only 2 minutes long. It ends with Myron Hooks, assistant manager in the Walgreens, saying, "Go, John, John, go, go." And me immediately turning around and walking out. This indicates that from the very first, I intended, and always have, remained within the law and within Walgreens rules. The second part of the video begins 20 minutes later when Niemczyk is leaving the store, and I confront him a second time in a video running over 8 minutes. This time, he tries to both hit me with his wheelchair and assault me with pepper spray, which is illegal for a felon to possess in Nevada. And more on that the next day when I tell the police about Niemczyk in the police station. An officer who I now know to be Michael Martin, but whose badge number I cannot obtain because apparently they say he has left the force under some mysterious circumstances. So as he is no longer an officer, I cannot obtain his badge number, which I have reason to believe is not actual policy. They just don't want to give me his badge number. But Michael Martin, officer in DTAC, who said he had a Air Force background, was extremely hostile to me from the beginning. He kind of scoffed at the suggestion that Niemczyk was doing anything wrong. Even when I showed him the video of the pepper spray and informed him from what I have learned and confirmed since, that it's illegal for a felon to possess pepper spray. And Mark Niemczyk is, of course, a felon. Well, let me continue. Again, this was my day off. The following day, this is 4/29, April 29th, 2023. The following day, I was scheduled to work, and when I came into the Walgreens, Kiana Music, who I mentioned before, an assistant manager, very much brainwashed by Niemczyk, or loyal to Niemczyk for other reasons we could speculate on. Kiana Music and Cedric Moore. And Cedric Moore is, the main manager of that store, then and now, who I'm going to be focusing on a lot more soon. Cedric Moore, Kiana Music, asked me to talk in private in a back room, which was the former pharmacy. There is no more pharmacy in that Walgreens. They asked me what happened last night, and I said, I can show you. I have video. Then I showed them the video of the confrontation with Niemczyk, which I then posted on YouTube here. And again, that's the confrontation video, which you can watch in its entirety on YouTube or on the pinned TikTok. It's pinned at the top of my TikTok videos in a shorter edited version because the full one was banned by TikTok. To my surprise, neither of these managers seemed to be aware of what I had told Jeff the previous day or Myron Hooks about who Niemczyk was. And they both seemed oddly offended by what I had done. Cedric Moore claimed that he knew nothing of Niemczyk as a customer, but then said something which revealed he did in fact know Niemczyk both by sight and by name. And as a regular customer in that store for 7 years at that point, since 2016, Cedric Moore would be very familiar with him. I told them that I had absolutely done the right thing, and I was proud of it, and again urged them to ban Niemczyk from the store. They took what I would call a defensive posture. They also seemed to take a defensive attitude toward Niemczyk, which was disconcerting. I was still furious at Niemczyk, and the thought that I had taken his money made me nauseous. When I tried to explain why I had confronted Niemczyk, they became visibly uncomfortable. And I remember thinking how strange it was that they did not express any shock or interest at all. Because again, I had shown them that day, or in that brief meeting, the day after the confrontation, I'd shown them the news articles, the national news articles about this guy from 10 years ago. So again, that's why I say, when I tried to explain why I had confronted Niemczyk, they became visibly uncomfortable. And I remember thinking how strange it was that they did not express any shock or interest at all. Now I know it's because they both already knew who Niemczyk was and let him scam in the store anyway. Again, I have since had reason to believe that they had been approached by Niemczyk and been told lies about me as a result of the early April things I had said to him about the hate speech on the back of the vest. Again, I have since had reason to believe that they had been approached by Niemczyk and been told lies about me. In this way, he threatened or convinced them to fire me so that he could silence me and continue his fraud and punish me for exposing it. The managers, one second. Um, the manager's apparent loyalty, I don't know what else to call it, to such a flagrant, disgusting liar as Niemczyk, and the fact that they refused to listen to details of his crimes, which fully justified my confrontation of him. Made me frustrated. And I said I felt I didn't want to talk about it at that time, but they should look up his name and do their research, their own research, and they would understand perfectly why I did what I did. But they refused to write down the name, Mark Niemczyk, or take a piece of paper I had with his name written on it. I was proud of what I had done, both in identifying a notorious criminal, openly committing a version of the same fraud he was already very publicly exposed for committing in the national media. And I was proud of taking the first step to bringing him to justice and combating this heinous fraud, fighting crime essentially in my community. But the managers seemed to think I had done something wrong, which I couldn't understand and which they have never explained. The managers did not share this feeling, and to this day, I can only wonder why. Although, since I wrote that, I don't need to wonder why. I know that the managers in that Walgreens were actively working with him. Niemczyk is known to give out gifts of cash or items to people in order to get them on his side, to gain their trust. He is a manipulative, sociopathic scammer. And these kind of people any kind of contact with them is dangerous, especially taking items from them, because they use that to establish trust, to gain people's confidence, which is where the con in con man comes from. We also know that he didn't just give things to those managers, but also to Arcadia Security. The cowboy hat that he gave CJ, that I've documented in a recent video, is one example, as is the bottle of liquor that he gave Sunny D on the night of July 17th, also documented to assault me. And this is a lot of background details, and you may be wondering what I'm talking about. It's a complex story that requires a good investment of the viewer's time. And the only way to get those kind of details is to watch my videos that I've curated on TikTok, but mainly on YouTube. And they're organized into playlists. All of the Vegas stuff, everything that's happened since I confronted him is in the playlist Niemczyk 2023 Scamming Vegas on YouTube. And of course, it includes the confrontation video that I just talked about, and which happened exactly 9 months ago to the day. which is why I'm doing this live today. So let me continue. The managers did not share this feeling, and to this day I can only wonder why. They have been unwilling to discuss the matter from the first. This stubborn refusal to even look at the facts and discomfort with hearing the facts set the pattern for how Walgreens management approached the issue going forward. The other employees were initially supportive, but this began to change over time. I have reason to believe that Niemczyk, through criminal associates, began to retaliate against me for telling the truth about him and spreading disinformation to the effect that everything I said about him was a lie. His military record was real, but classified, which is a lie and a red flag. Stolen valor scammers will always say, "Oh, it's classified. My records are classified. That's why you can't find them." He also lied and said that he had no criminal record at all. During this time, employees initially supportive of what I had done began to grow silent when I mentioned Niemczyk. I now know that this chilling effect on free speech in the workplace was the result of disinformation coming from Niemczyk himself and designed to discredit me. Niemczyk stopped coming to the Walgreens, and I never expected to see him again, assuming he would be arrested soon. And that's the end of the narrative for July 28th. April 28th. April 30th, 2023. 2 days later. I combined both videos of the confrontation and posted on YouTube at the link provided, which is the first confrontation, which again you can find in its entirety on YouTube. Posted exactly 9 months ago today. And a shorter edited version on TikTok because it's too hot to handle. On YouTube, it's titled Mark Niemczyk, 9/11 charity fraud, guilty, hashtag stolen valor, confronted, hashtag Las Vegas, read description. And on TikTok, it's pinned to the top of my videos. So I email Don Shipley, the U.S. Navy SEAL, who busted Niemczyk in 2011 for the 9/11 truck scam. I emailed Don Shipley explaining that I've identified Mark Niemczyk in Las Vegas and sent him the video, adding that he is free to use it on his own website. And then 3 days later, we're at April 2nd, 2023. May 2nd, 2023. Don Shipley posted the first part of the confrontation on his website, extremesealexperience.com, with a commentary giving background on Niemczyk and basically supporting me and what I had done in that Walgreens to confront him. 2 days later, May 4th, 2023, I saw Niemczyk on Fremont Street and confronted him again on video. In this video, I alert a Las Vegas police officer, Detective Ballinger, on Fremont Street while Niemczyk is there. And again, you can watch that video. It's posted on YouTube. It was banned on TikTok. And the date is 5/4/23. And if you just search my YouTube videos for 5/4/23 or any of the dates that I mention, then it will come up that way. And so I tell Ballinger about Niemczyk on Fremont there. And again, to my great surprise, Ballinger did not seem to care when I began to lay out the facts of Niemczyk's past and present crimes. 3 months later, Ballinger again plays an important role. And there I'm talking about the July 29th handcuffing, which happened as a result of a false police report from Niemczyk through Arcadia security guards to police, which resulted in me being swarmed by police on Fremont Street, who handcuffed me, began questioning me about what do they call it on TikTok? Pew. I hate these stupid, words you have to use. But and you can see that video too. Just look up 7/29/23 on my YouTube. It shows me while in the middle of a TikTok live, a police officer comes straight at me with others flanking him, and you see the video end because he grabs my phone and they handcuff me when I was doing nothing wrong. It was completely the result of Niemczyk making false reports about me, having a pew, and laundering that report through Arcadia guards. So 5/2/23, Don Shipley posted that first part, and then 2 days later, I see Niemczyk on the street. Ballinger, the police officer, doesn't care. You can see that in the video. And then I continue with the narrative. In this video, the Ballinger video, there is a key part where I tell the officer that I work at the Walgreens, and Niemczyk tells the officer, I fired him. Quote, an indication that, as I later learned, Niemczyk was trying to get me fired by sending people into the store to make false accusations against me, and perhaps thought that I had already been fired only 7 days after the confrontation. I hope that makes sense. I know this is a lot of information, but the point is, he's in the video telling a police officer, while I'm telling the police officer about Niemczyk. Niemczyk tells the police officer, Ballinger, I fired him, talking about me, which was not true at that time. However, a little over a month later, in June 6th, I was indeed placed on unpaid suspension, and then 2 weeks later, on the 20th of June, I was terminated. And I can say definitively that this was the result of false information spread about me to managers by Mark Niemczyk, not only in the form of a forged restraining order and apparently other forged documents, if sources are to be believed, which would have purported to be some sort of criminal record on me, which was obviously forged and presented to Walgreens managers and employees and many people on Fremont Street in Niemczyk's attempts to discredit me, silence me, back me off to protect his scam and keep his lies about himself, going. This is an example of turning the tables, the scammer's tactic when they attack the person who's exposing them, telling the truth about them. So when you call out a scammer and they're backed into a corner like that, what can they do? They can't possibly What are they going to do? Like confess? No. They turn the tables back on the person telling the truth about them and say, "Oh no, you're a criminal, not me. You're the criminal. You're the liar. You're this. You're that." And of course, the worst example of this, the big lie, which in a pretty awesome uh, way I exposed as a lie using his own associates. He spread the lie that it's too disgusting to even say without getting kind of enraged. But at this point, I'm used to what a scumbag Niemczyk is. He told people I was a pedophile, and he told people that I'd done something to a child in that Walgreens. Completely untrue, completely baseless, made up completely to turn the tables on me so that he could continue his scam. And I confirmed that through kindred justice in the November 2nd interview with her, which we conducted in a period when she was trying to break away from the Niemczyks, because she is the longtime girlfriend of Mike Niemczyk, his scammer son. But more on that later. The point is that Niemczyk spread lies about me and did in fact get me fired later. But going back to this night of May 2nd, so he tells Ballinger on camera, "I fired him," as an indication that, as I later learned, Niemczyk was trying to get me fired by sending people into the store to make false accusations against me, and perhaps thought that I had already been fired. Ballinger tells me not to follow, quote unquote, Niemczyk. An early indication that police were protecting him, because walking around Fremont Street is not a crime. And I wasn't following Niemczyk, but if I had wanted to, I could, perfectly legally. Why couldn't I? The reason he said that is because he was protecting Niemczyk and his scam. And the evidence of that him and other police, him specifically, because if you look at the July 29th video, you'll see what I'm talking about. He was involved in the handcuffing on me, and he tried to cover it up by giving me a false incident number later, which is on video. Ballinger is dirty. Ballinger works for Niemczyk. Ballinger has protected Niemczyk for years on Fremont, and he worked actively to help Niemczyk's efforts to turn the tables on me. So later, I was standing leaning against a tree when Niemczyk passes by me and spits on me, leading me to file a complaint of battery with the police later that night. That's also on video. At the very end, I flinch, and the actual spitting is barely missed by the camera, but you can hear it. Leading me to file a complaint of battery with police later that night. And I give the event number, which I might as well say because I'll be saving this live. You can watch the video on YouTube. That's 5/4/23, or just search for the word spitting, because Niemczyk is spitting on me, and that's in the title. It's also on TikTok. And the battery event number report is number LLV 23050001938. May 7th, 2023. I had still received no assurance that Niemczyk would be banned from the Walgreens, and I sent an email containing a meme which I had made in response to a request for a written statement. The information contained in the meme gave description and background on Niemczyk's past and present crimes, which I felt explained my actions. I received no response and was never contacted by the district manager, Ryan Higashihara, as I had requested. And I'm still waiting to hear from Ryan Higashihara about this matter, but it's almost as if he has something to hide, just like police and just like Arcadia security guards who don't want to talk about any of this, even as I continue my efforts to expose them and have presented pretty damning evidence against them. But they will have to answer for it, because I'm not giving up, and I am about to take some pretty proactive actions against all of them. Not only police in Arcadia, but Walgreens itself, and particularly the management, particularly Cedric Moore, and particularly Ryan Higashihara. Fast forward to May 18th. Don Shipley posts the first and the second part of the first confrontation video with a commentary, as in the first video, with a commentary supporting what I had done and criticizing Niemczyk and giving a lot of background about Niemczyk's crimes. I combined this video with his earlier video, which was posted only on Extreme Seal Experience, and posted them here, if that makes any sense. So I took the video from Don Shipley's site, and I posted it also on my YouTube, purely to get the word out about Niemczyk. I should mention that my YouTube is not monetized and never has been. I think that would be a conflict of interest if this was. None of my platforms are monetized and never have been. I had an opportunity to I met the threshold to monetize my YouTube, but it would have been a conflict of interest. I would have been accused possibly of sensationalizing this story for money, which I have never done. It's all facts, and I'm doing it purely to get the word out as a citizen journalism project, to tell the truth, to expose this notorious scammer in my community. But yeah, I met the threshold for views quite a while back. Actually, as a result of that Don Shipley video that I posted, because it got a lot of views, and Don Shipley has a large following on YouTube, and a devoted following, and I would suggest you check out his channel to see what I mean. Don Shipley, retired Navy SEAL, who busts stolen valor scumbags. They're entertaining videos. They really are. And they do good. Not just exposing the scammers, but his channels are monetized, and the money goes 100% to his charity called Warriors Rest, which is kind of a retreat for wounded warriors. And you can check out details of that if you go to Don Shipley's YouTube channel or his website. So anyway, where was I on this narrative? On 5/18, Don Shipley posted that. I combined the two videos together. The earlier commentary that he'd done on the first part, the 2 minutes in the Walgreens, and this second one with Don Shipley and his wife, Diane, making a commentary on the second part, the first and the second part. of the confrontation. And the reason he put them in those two parts is because I sent the first part back when I took it to see if he was interested. It took me a couple days to send the second part, and it just kind of got lost in communication by email. But anyway, on 5/18 is when he posts the entire thing. Also on that same date, 5/18, that night, while working at Walgreens, I am shocked to see Niemczyk back in the store for the first time since the confrontation. I am so shocked, I don't know what to do. I take 3 pictures, and he leaves. So on May 18th, 3 weeks after the confrontation, Niemczyk comes back into the store completely shamelessly. That's mind-blowing to me. Scammers, especially stolen valor scammers, generally do not do that. If they're exposed in a place, physically, they won't return to that location. But in Niemczyk's case, he's so audacious that a mere 3 weeks after being exposed, he just came right back on May 18th. And then we're moving on to 5 days later, May 23rd. Niemczyk comes into the store for the second time that I know of. So he's growing bolder now. I am working as a cashier at the time and see him enter. I am so shocked, I don't know how to react and do nothing as he is checked out by another cashier. This is evidence that I showed restraint and did not confront him while on duty, while working at the Walgreens. I have since considered a hypothetical course of action in which he had come to my register and I refused to serve him when he offered cash taken directly from the fraudulent donation bucket. He would have called for the manager in that case, I'm sure, and in that case, it would have been very revealing to see the management's action, or the management's reaction, and it would have given me an opportunity to air my strong disagreement and disapproval of what he was doing, and pointing out that it was very obviously a criminal fraud. That's probably what I should have done. I should have waited for him to come to my register and then said, I'm not going to serve you, and then called the manager once he made a fuss about it, which I'm sure he would have. If I had done that and gotten that on camera, I think all of this would have been wrapped up much more sooner in my favor, and Niemczyk probably would have been banned from the store. But I didn't think of it at the time. It's one of the many missteps I've made along the way in this, but I'm doing my best, always have. Since I don't seem to be getting many viewers, I wonder if I should take a minute to go back, get my ugly mug off of this live for a minute, and go back to the April 28th video while I look at some of the comments. Give me 1 second. I'm going to flip here.
My name is Mark.
I'm also going to mute it. Again, I've done this now several times. live and other lives, and TikTok takes the flags my live for harassment and bullying whenever I show this video with Sam. You're, you can watch an edited version of it pinned on my TikTok, or you can go to my YouTube and see the full thing. And again, this confrontation was exactly 9 months ago. 9 months ago, Walgreens on Fremont Street, which is why I am doing this live today, to give some background, to answer any questions you might have, and to give the bigger picture. And of course, the picture is a lot bigger than it might appear. It's much bigger than the one man, Niemczyk, for sure. And it is, I believe, of national importance. As I've said, he made national news 10 years ago. I believe the story is even more important. And happy to answer any questions you might have about it. This is the part, again, where I look into the bucket. I know I'm trying to do this with a green screen, but it's a little bit cool because it's kind of oh, there he is. Here he is coming out of the Walgreens. I know this is like a. I wonder if I could take down the. Okay. Wonder if I can. There he is there, spraying the pepper spray for the first time. Um, Vladimir Valenwood is here. I did not see your recent posts. What are they about? Again, this is a live devoted to for 9 months after this confrontation on a Fremont Street. I wonder if I can get it up on full screen. It might be better. I kind of like this where I here we go. Kind of show him like that. If I could figure out a way to get this working so that he stays on the screen, that would be kind of neat. I wonder if the. So yeah, the confrontation of April 28th. I can't show in its entirety or on TikTok because gets gets flagged, red flagged all the time. You can see it on YouTube in its entirety. Exactly 9 months ago, the same day that I identified this regular customer in the Walgreens where I worked is Mark Niemczyk, was the same day that I was in such a rage that I confronted him at 11:30 here in the Walgreens. I posted this video to my YouTube. I sent it in to Dan Shipley, the school. I've already talked about. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but Navy SEAL who posted ship with Niemczyk in 2011. In 2010, first exposed him, really began to go after him hard in 2011, and eventually got him convicted, or helped to get him convicted of felony from theft by deception in New Jersey. 2013. Let me go back to that bucket for a second, and I'll pause it at the key moment. The bucket, this cash bucket, with the writing "Show your appreciation with a small donation," is is at the center of it all. You can see it here clearly. Come on. Come on. Ah, maybe not so clearly. Well, like I said, you can watch the video. But the cash bucket, there it is the same model of the cash bucket that he was carrying around with the 911 truck. And when they would stop at events, they would put out multiple of these buckets in order to scam people and to get quote unquote donations. Just as you see the sign on the front of the bucket, which I'll try to show here. You can see it more clearly in the video if you watch the video. Again, pinned on here on TikTok, but on YouTube in its entirety because TikTok banned the full video. Trying to get the words to show up. Don't think I can make it. Oh, there it is. Can I make it happen? Anyway, it says, "Show your appreciation with a small donation," on the front of the bucket, which obviously suggests that he is a charity, which he is not. Oh, there it is. Nope, I just can't get it to cooperate. Anyway, you can go to and check it out on the video. I'll play the front part again to remind you of who we're talking about. There he is, Mark Anthony Niemczyk, at the first confrontation exactly 9 months ago, that you can watch the video of. It's on my TikTok. And like I said, I had no plan for what I was doing on this night, April 28th. I was just in a complete rage because I found out who he was a few hours before that. So I came into the Walgreens and just let him have it. That's what you see. You can watch the whole video on YouTube. That's the TikTok version. It's not complete. Got the good parts, I should say. Um, for TikTok, the same way I was just talking about, this is a very long and complicated story, and things that's come up very recently, or become more important recently, is these false accusations that Nick has made against me, that I had a pew pew, and he made false reports about that. So just like a lot of things about this story, having to say the words pew pew like a kid instead of how adults talk is the same reason that TikTok has banned so much of my content. So much of my content has been banned on TikTok, but it is all very much available on YouTube, my main platform. I'll just start it from the beginning one more time. Maybe if you're in Vegas, you recognize him. If you don't, just tuning into all this. Then I'll turn the camera back on myself. That's right. I do not own a Pew Pew at the moment. But even if I did, what would be the problem? I certainly wasn't doing anything wrong whatsoever any of the times that Niemczyk made false reports against me. We hear some mentions of Michael Villa. Vladimir Valinor, if you want, join. This is a multi-guest. What I can do, I think, I invite or maybe add a moderator. Try to add you as a moderator. No, I don't want to do that. That's just about the comments and things. Uh, I don't know how. I think you have to make a request, interact. Wait, here we go. Here we go. No, give me a second. Give me a second. I've never done multi guests before, so here we go. Let's see. I'm looking through the people I can invite, but I'm not seeing you. While I'm scrolling through this and trying to look for Vladimir's name, just want to say again the reason I'm doing this live today, and I probably should have been doing it long, long time ago, is that today is January 28th, which means it's exactly 9 months since I started this saga in this confrontation video you're watching. Mark Anthony Niemczyk, a notorious lifelong con artist from New Jersey, who was a regular customer at Walgreens where I worked. And this is the day that I confronted him in the Walgreens. I posted this video 2 days later. I cannot find how to invite. I just can't. You have to look at it from your end. He doesn't have enough to go live. Yeah, but he should have enough to like be a multi-guest like call in, right? It's not him going live; it would be him joining my live. There's got to be a way because everybody can like call into multi-guest programs. It says add guest. I don't know. I don't know. Allow requests but record. I don't know. Does anybody know how I could invite somebody to be? There's probably something to if I can just figure. Yeah, sorry, Vladimir. I don't think you're going to be able to get out of it. The technology isn't working for me. Maybe the other viewer is right. There's no way to bring you on. It's got something to do with follow. But that can't. That cannot be true. I'll figure it out. And this is the first time I'm doing this live, anyway. So I'll or live like this. follow my channel, I've done other lives, um, not with a green screen before. But this is a special occasion because this is 9 months since the confrontation you're watching. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my pinned videos. One of the pinned videos is um, this confrontation video, a part of it on TikTok. And like I said, so I was reading this narrative before of a day by day of this whole Niemczyk saga, and I had got up to, I believe, May 20th. But let me take a moment to stop and talk about the day of the confrontation itself, back in April 28th. Like I said, you see how he's wearing that vest, which says Heroes of 9/11 on the front with those three badges. He would wear that every night that I worked there for 7 months. And at the foot of the electric wheelchair that he rides around it, again, he had this bucket, which I'll show you in 1 second. It said, "Show your appreciation with a small donation." With many American flags. There again, you've got, he's wearing the vest. If you saw this guy on Fremont Street or somewhere in your community, what would you think? To me, I was suspicious. It Something did not look right about this guy. But it wasn't until much later that I was able to identify him as Mark Anthony Niemczyk, notorious con artist guilty of the 9/11 truck scam. And again, please Google his name. You can see it up above there in my signs that I carried around to get the word out. And Mark Anthony Niemczyk, using these props of that bucket full of cash and that vest, and on his head there you can see his veteran's hat. These are all scamming props because nothing about Niemczyk is as it appears. He did not serve as a veteran, besides, of course, the 6 months in Navy boot camp before he got kicked out in what I believe is his first scam. The reason given by the Navy was allergic to wool, but a lot of guys at that time evaded the draft by lying about giving some reason. I cannot prove some fake reason, such as being allergic to wool, or it's possible that there was just something not right about him. And based on what I've learned about him from, not from eyewitness sources, but I have them too later in New Jersey, but from old newspaper articles going back to the 1960s and 70s that I can talk about later. Just shady behavior, and shady behavior, it's too much to get into right now. But I believe that the Navy made up that story because they wanted him out, or because he wanted out and he said something else. But the allergic to wool cannot be the real reason. Anyway, I confronted Niemczyk in the video, like you're saying, April 28th, and I was just in a rage because I just found out only a few hours earlier who he was. And from that day to this, I cannot understand why people don't care more, because it isn't just a shocking story. It's fascinating in a disgusting and repulsive way. And there are just so many details to it. Um, I don't know where to begin. I was kind of hoping that this would be more of I don't know, like discussion or a Q&A, because I know it's a confusing story. Why don't I get back to my narrative that I was reading before, and I'll turn the camera back on myself. I don't know if you want to look at my face or you want to look at Niemczyk's face while I'm doing this. They're both pretty unattractive, I know, but I guess I'll flip it back to me and I'll continue doing what I was doing. Since this is the 9 months mark since that confrontation, I thought I would read through this narrative that I wrote up a couple months ago to send to lawyers and media and law enforcement. And it's basically just a timeline, a TikTok, if you will, a play-by-play by date of events that happened. And I had worked my way up last time I was on it to May 23rd. May 23rd, which would be, just shy of 1 month since the confrontation and the identification of Niemczyk. So May 23rd, 2023, Niemczyk comes into the store for the second time that I know of. I am working as a cashier at the time and see him enter. I am so shocked, I don't know how to react and do nothing as he is checked out by another cashier. This is evidence that I showed restraint and did not confront him while on duty at the Walgreens. Which is an important point when you understand that I was wrongfully terminated from that Walgreens. 2 weeks after that event, which was on June the 6th, is when I was suspended without pay. June 6th, and we're talking about May 23rd, 2 weeks before, when I show restraint. I do not confront Niemczyk. I do not say anything to Niemczyk. I don't even look at him because I am so repulsed and disgusted by the so-called man who has come back into the store shamelessly. At that time, a little over 3 weeks since I exposed him. I'm speechless. I'm dumbfounded. My jaw is on the floor. And he reaches into his bucket and he pays the cashier next to me, and he goes out. And of course, that cashier doesn't bat an eye, even though I had told them before all about Niemczyk. Like none of the employees did. They were media illiterate. They didn't understand what a news story is, and they didn't understand what the news stories were about that I was showing them, even though they contained pictures of the man who they knew as Mark, and many of them greeted as Mark each time he came into the store, or each time he came up to their registers, or when they saw him in the store. Incredibly, when I outed him and told the truth that this guy's a notorious scammer, everybody, oh my God, they were like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't get it. I do not get it. So continuing with May 23rd, I have since considered a hypothetical course of action in which he had come to my register and I had refused to serve him when he offered cash taken directly from the fraudulent donation bucket. Because he would have called for the manager, said, hey, this guy's not serving me, blah, blah, blah. And he would have made false accusations against me that I could have got on camera. And he would have called for the manager. And in that case, I could have outed, my reasons for not serving him, it would have been awesome. I would have got the manager's reaction. It would have been great, but I didn't think of it at the time. That's what I should have done. I should have waited until he got to my register. I should have arranged it so he would have come to my register. And then just said, "Oh, I'm not going to serve you." No. And have the manager sort it out. And I would have given my reasons, and I would have been vindicated right then and there. And I probably could have gotten employees on my side, and maybe even the public. But instead, it didn't go that way. It went in Niemczyk's favor for quite a while, but now it's starting to swing back in my favor. Okay, so anyway, let's move on to the next date I have in my notes. That is May 31st. May 31st. Niemczyk comes into the store again. I observe assistant manager Daniel Rabota. Daniel Rabota I don't know what it is with these people and their speakers that they blast out for all to hear. I mean, why can't you wear headphones? I had done nothing wrong. Where was I? Oh yeah. So, and I have pictures of this, by the way. I was going on my break while Niemczyk was in the store, and I noticed him and Nick, by the way, his bodyguard, talking to the assistant manager named Daniel Rabota. I have pictures of it. And after I took those pictures, and after Niemczyk left the store, I came up to Daniel Rabota and I said, "What were you talking to about with him?" And he said something like, "We're talking about you, actually." And I said, "Tell me." And at that time, Daniel Rabota told me that Niemczyk said he had a restraining order against me, and that Niemczyk showed him what he claimed was a restraining order against me. I had since confirmed that this was a forged restraining order because it's very easy to find out whether or not you have a restraining order against you, or indeed, even whether somebody has requested a restraining order against you. All you need to do is call the civil sheriff's office, like family court section, and you don't even have to prove who you are. Anybody can call and just give a first name and a last name and say, "Does this person have a restraining order against you?" Or "Does he have a restraining order against him?" You can also give the name of anybody who is seeking a restraining order or who has, because that's all public information. And so that same day that Rabota told me that, I was able to confirm that Niemczyk was lying. I pretty much suspected he was lying because I had done nothing to justify a restraining order against me. Absolutely not. But I know that those restraining orders, or TPOs, temporary protective order, I think, are very easy to get. Basically, all you have to do is make up a claim, and they'll start the process. But and even if somebody lies about them, it's never really prosecuted. But in this case, I had absolutely done nothing wrong to deserve a restraining order, and there was no restraining order. Niemczyk never even sought one. He was lying. He was lying to the manager, Daniel Rabota. And the reason he was doing that was it was one of his many lies that he used to try to turn the tables against me. And I can't prove it, but I have no doubt at all that Niemczyk at the same time told Rabota other lies about me, including the pedophile lie, homeless, mental institution, fugitive, all the BS lies that Niemczyk was spreading in the store to these idiot managers who believed every word he said, because He was Mark to them. He was the old veteran that they knew for years, that they called Mark. I was a new guy who started working there in November. The fact that I had, proof of that Niemczyk was a notorious convicted felon scumbag con artist and showed them news articles from 10 years ago meant nothing at all to them. Nothing at all. Nothing. To tell them that this man that they had under their nose for all that time was in fact in USA Today, Time Magazine, CBS, Philadelphia Inquirer, you name it. Just Google his name. Meant nothing to them because they don't know what news is. They never read a news. They wouldn't have had the attention spans to read an entire news article anyway. And if it doesn't concern them personally, then they didn't care. As a matter of fact, Daniel Rabota himself, like Myron Hooks, both of those men on separate occasions told me pretty much word for word that they didn't care about anything except money, which is perfectly in keeping with a lot of people on Fremont Street, actually, and a lot of people in Vegas, and a lot of people in America, unfortunately, these days. It means nothing to them. Lies, truth, dishonesty, stolen valor, scamming, the worst kind of dishonesty, in a way, meant nothing to them. They have no loyalty to America. They don't care about truth. Which is why, when they did say that statement about, well, we only care about money, makes me think, well, it was pretty easy for Niemczyk to get them on his side then, wasn't it? Because all he had to do was reach into that bucket, give them a handshake and palm off, I don't know, 20, even $5. That would have been enough to buy their souls that they sell so cheap. Daniel Rabota, Myron Hooks, Kiana Alexandria Music, and Cedric Moore, the general manager of that store. They protected Niemczyk. They were loyal to Niemczyk. They did his bidding, and they swallowed his lies, or maybe they didn't care. Those people are so dumb and so immoral. After he told them the pedophile lie about me, which I'm sure he did, they wouldn't have even probably cared one way or another whether it was true. Obviously, it's not true. Like everything Niemczyk says, and like I can confirm in the Kindred Justice interview that I made public at the beginning of this month, but which was recorded in November. Kindred Justice in that interview makes it clear that Niemczyk himself made up the pedophile lie and told it specifically, in this case, in that interview, which was cut short, and I wish I had gotten more details, but she confirms at least that he told the manager, CJ. So it's not a stretch to see that he would have told everybody who would listen, including the managers. And again, going back to that earlier, May 4th video that I talked about, in that one, where it's me and Niemczyk and the police officer Ballinger, and we're on Fremont Street, all talking, me telling the truth, Niemczyk lying, and Ballinger just kind of nervously rubbing his hands for most of the time. Niemczyk says, I fired him. Because when I say I worked at the Walgreens over there, and this man would come in every night as a way of explaining who Niemczyk was. And again, that's at the very beginning of all this, May 4th. week after the confrontation. When Niemczyk hears me say that I work in the Walgreens, he pipes up and points at me and says to Ballinger, "I fired him," which is a perfect indication that at that time I was not fired. It was still more than a month until I was even suspended. But what Niemczyk meant is that I was trying to get him fired by spreading those lies. Or maybe Niemczyk thought that I had already been fired by that time, May 4th, because I'm sure he and his thugs had already been in full attack mode, spreading those lies about me. But at the time, I had no idea. At that time, I would have assumed that Niemczyk would have been heading for the hills after I exposed him, because stolen valor scammers don't, and scammers in general, don't stay at the scene of the crime. They don't stay in the place where they just got exposed and confronted. They run away. They don't come back. They might start the scam up because they're shameless, pathological monsters, but they would be fools to do it in the same place. Or incredibly bold and audacious, which is what Niemczyk is. But anyway, to continue with that date and talking about Daniel Rabota, the mindless automaton who only cares about money. So yeah, a few hours later, I asked him what they were talking about. Rabota, Nick, and Niemczyk. He told me that Niemczyk told him that he had a restraining order against me, which I easily discovered was a lie by calling the civil sheriff's office the next day. I had done nothing wrong, much less illegal, and Niemczyk was an infamous public figure with no expectation of privacy while in public, especially if he was doing the exact same scam or a version of the scam which made him infamous in the first place. So the point of that is, how can you get a restraining order against me if you're a public figure, which he is? I mean, even if he wasn't a public figure, what I was doing wasn't illegal in the confrontation. But because he's a public figure, it's even more right. And then continuing on, the next date is June 1st. So we're now 5 days away from the suspension. June 1st, 2023. On my day off, I came into the store prepared to work because, oh wait, no, sorry. This is June 6th. On my day off, I came into the store prepared for work because I thought I was on the work schedule that day, but actually wasn't. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I mixed things up here. Okay. Yeah, that is June 1st. So we are 5 days away from the suspension. June 1st, 2023. On my day off, I came into the store prepared to work because I thought I was on the work schedule that day, but actually I wasn't. While there, I asked to meet with Kiana and Jeff. Kiana is I guess you call it the main assistant manager. Jeff is another assistant manager who just started at that time. And he was the first assistant manager that I ever told about Niemczyk on the same day that I identified him, a couple hours before the confrontation. So while there, I asked to meet with Kiana and Jeff and ask them to call Daniel into the office, Daniel Rabota. When he arrived, I asked him to tell the other managers what he had told me yesterday. And he gave an accurate recounting, saying that Niemczyk told him that there was a restraining order against me. Kiana then said, "I know," which was very surprising to me because I would have assumed she didn't. If so, we would have expected her to ask me about it, ask me if it was true, first of all. So Kiana says, I know. And I asked why she hadn't told me this. Because it was an obvious lie by an obvious liar, Mark Niemczyk. Kiana then said, I saw it. Her words. And I said that, of course, whatever he had shown her was a forged restraining order that he was using to get me fired, and that she should have told me earlier. Because remember, I called the civil sheriff's office as soon as Rabota told me that. And I checked, hey, is there a restraining order against me? They said, well, what's your name? And I told them, Jonathan Cates. And they said, nope, nothing against you. And that was that. And then I told Kiana to call that number and check for herself. Let me get back to the narrative. Kiana said, I know. And I asked why she hadn't told me this, because it was an obvious lie by an obvious liar. She then said, I saw it. And I said that, of course, whatever Niemczyk had shown her was a forged restraining order that he was using to try to get me fired. Again, turning the tables, the scammer's tactic, retaliation. And that she should have told me earlier. I had a right to know what else he was saying about me behind my back, and to defend myself against these false accusations. But she didn't care at all, because again, she was either brainwashed or bribed by Niemczyk, who she knew well enough to be on a first-name basis with him before I identified and confronted him. But she has no shame, and she just shrugged it off and said, I know. Oh, it's a fake restraining order. Yeah. Oh, but I saw it. Well, do you care if it's real or not? Or do you just need to see something so you have an excuse to do his bidding for him? Like his little minion that you are, and all the managers, because you got little gifts from him, didn't you? Maybe over the years, or maybe just since all this started, and he wanted to get your loyalty and manipulate you and brainwash you so that you'd be his little helper against me, the good guy who was doing the right thing, who you wanted to retaliate against for telling the truth, because you're all liars, just like him. All you Walgreens managers and many, well, I won't say employees, because many of the employees were on my side and were silenced and told not to talk about this. Oh, no, can't talk about it. Well, it's a big story. We all knew this guy that came into our store, and I'm telling you, he's like a notorious con artist, and he's committing fraud crimes in our store of the worst kind, stolen valor. Oh, no, don't care, no, can't talk about it, no. That in itself is a violation of employees' rights, by the way, that I'll get into later, and is somewhere in this narrative. So, I had a right to know what else Niemczyk was saying about me, and to defend myself against false accusations. I told her to call the civil sheriff's office, and they would confirm that no restraining order had been issued against me, or even applied for. Kiana did not care, and said so. And it seemed clear to me that she was on Niemczyk's side and wanted him to keep coming into the store at all costs. It seemed to me at the time, and I've since been able to, that impression has been reinforced again and again ever since. Later that day, I made a sign. This is June 1st. I made a sign. This sign above me, the Beware of Mark Niemczyk sign. Later that day, I made a sign out of cardboard measuring 2 feet by 1.5 feet, which says, beware of Mark Niemczyk at the top, identifying him as an quote infamous scammer hustling Fremont Street, and gives details of his past 9/11 truck scam and stolen valor claims, along with a picture of Niemczyk taken at the first confrontation video, and a copy of the 2014 press release, which you can see up in the corner right there. Niemczyk's face is actually cut off. That's his partner, Thomas Scalgione. You can see right there in the New Jersey press release about their arrest, their indictment. But Niemczyk is right there on the to the left, and of course Niemczyk is in the black vest right there. So this is a copy of the indictment from New Jersey that I had on the sign, also giving details of their crimes. And that's the sign I'm talking about that I made at the time, because I was infuriated by what Kiana had told me. I was infuriated by the apathy these people had. And I thought, I need to do something to fight back. And so if Mark Niemczyk is lying about me, spreading these lies about me, then I have to do something to fight back. I have told the truth to no avail, it seems. So that's when I made this sign and began to carry it on Fremont Street. And it got off to a good, it got off with a bang, I would say, because the next day, June 2nd, is when I had a major confrontation inside the Walgreens, holding the sign for the first time. I confronted Niemczyk, again, my day off. I had the sign, and I was walking around with it in the store because I had seen that Niemczyk was on the street, and I expected him to come in about 5 minutes. So first I went into the Walgreens with the sign, which I had tied to the front of my backpack across the chest. The what do they call it? The connector of the two backpack straps has the connector here. And anyway, the sign was on my front. And I was waiting for Niemczyk, who I knew would be in a matter of minutes. And as soon as I saw him approaching the door, I come up with that sign on my front, and I confront him right at the entrance to the store. He is like stunned, speechless. But about right behind him, like 5 seconds later, his son Mike comes up, gets extremely close to me, makes an aggressive gesture, and I forget the exact words we exchanged because I didn't have, I wasn't recording it. I should have been, but I wasn't. I think I was talking to a Fremont Street security guard in the store right before it happened, who was supportive. Although since then they've been told they've also been told these lies, and all Fremont Street security guards are working with Niemczyk now. But at that time, they supported me before they got brainwashed or were told by Fremont Street security to give me a hard time and to support Niemczyk. At least that's what all the evidence shows, and I can back it up. So because I was talking with that Fremont Street security guard, I didn't have my eye on the door. And I didn't have my camera recording when Niemczyk approached the door and when I came up to the front of the door with the sign, which by that time I had been seen by many people. But what happened was he was with others. You can also watch the video of this confrontation. It begins. It's June 2nd. Why don't I bring it up while we're here? I turn the camera on, about 1 minute after Niemczyk enters the store. Before the camera is on, Mark and Mike Niemczyk, and one of the people that was with them that you see later in the video was there, but he didn't say anything. It was Mark and Mike Niemczyk, and they were screaming threats, insults, while I was in the line, still with my sign, carrying a bottle of water that I was buying, not doing anything illegal, exercising my First Amendment rights with that sign. And I said something like, you have stolen valor. I know what you did in New Jersey. I mentioned Don Shipley. I believe I said, I bet Don Shipley would like to talk to you. Why don't you give him a call? And then I turn the camera on, and we see a security guard who was later deeply involved with Niemczyk. I know that security guard to be a Trump supporter who expressed support for Niemczyk and his signs, which is why I believe you see him in this video very much pretending to be not supporting Niemczyk, but most definitely attacking me and kind of dismissing me and what I'm doing. If you haven't watched the video, please watch it. The title again, and if the easy way to find these on YouTube is just search for the date, which I put as 6/2/23. Second Mark Niemczyk confrontation at Walgreens. His thugs threaten me. Hashtag Las Vegas. Hashtag Fremont Street. And of course, that's up on YouTube. This video was also banned by TikTok in its entirety, although a part of it is on TikTok now. But YouTube is the main platform because it doesn't use for nothing, basically. Unnecessary. If you haven't seen it, I'll just play it. And if I get flagged by TikTok, I'll stop it. But this part is not banned by TikTok, so it should be okay. Again, June 2nd, 2023. The security guard walks away, and I continue to stand there filming Niemczyk, who is sitting outside. His son, Mike Niemczyk, is standing there, sometimes in the frame, sometimes not. And then here comes Todd Huber, one of his thugs, to threaten me. And he comes at me in the store. And then I stand out there for about a minute before more happens. And again, Arcadia security guards who are incredibly supportive of Niemczyk from the first. You can see there that the guard attacks me, impugns my motives, and yet he fist bumps Todd Huber, the thug, and he basically apologizes to him. Pretty inexplicable, unless you know that he's. What I'm going to do. I forgot my YouTube was still running live. I'm really sorry, you guys on YouTube. Really sorry, because I was focusing on the TikTok live, because I was putting in this. It's the first time doing a TikTok live, and it's a little more complicated than YouTube, with a lot of stuff going on the green screen, but I've got quite a few comments, and I'm very sorry if you're still here, or even if you're not here. Well, I'll read them off and try to respond if there's any good questions or comments. The first, New Zealand here. I've been following this scumbaggery. You are doing a great job, says Mr. Something Else. Thank you. I mean, that really means a lot to me. That makes it all worthwhile. I've gotten a lot of good comments from people of support over the time I've been doing this. And many times when I've been demoralized, your comments have kept me going, along with my just inner will to do right on this. And actually, about 10-15% of my YouTube viewers are overseas, and quite a few are from your neck of the woods, New Zealand and Australia, where there's actually a lot of Don Shipley fans. He's got Down Under. And in fact, the next comment that I'm looking at, Australian Opal. No one can follow what you are doing. You make no sense. Go the legal route or go home. It seems you have mental problems relating to fixation. Like I mentioned one time before, I think it was on YouTube, in a video and or on a live and in a comment. Bob Woodward of Woodward and Bernstein, probably the most famous journalists in American history. And Bob Woodward said in an interview that he was accused of being obsessed with Nixon during the Watergate investigation that he and Bernstein broke. And he said, well, you have to be obsessed to be a journalist. You have to be obsessed. You have to eat, sleep, and breathe it. So in that sense, yes, I'm obsessed. But mental problems relating to fixation? No, I wouldn't say that. If you knew the story better, or if you were inside of it like me, you would see, or maybe you wouldn't, but because I haven't done a very good job of presenting it, like you said. But it's a very interesting story on many levels. That's why I'm fixated on it. It deserves attention, and the fact that I have done a bad job of presenting it, I plead guilty to that. But no one can follow what I'm doing? That's not true, because a lot of people can follow. It just takes, it requires an investment of the viewer's time. I'm not going to lie about that. But there's a point to it, and there's a payoff if you do invest the time to look at this story and everything I've done to cover it. And I assure you that it does make sense. It's just incredibly complicated. The next comment, Gardner Earth Guy. He'll be scamming during the Super Bowl. His friends look like they break into cars and write rubber checks. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. The Super Bowl coming here to Las Vegas for the first time soon will attract many tourists and will be an opportunity that Niemczyk is not likely to miss. As far as the goons he has around him, absolutely. I mean, if they are with him, that means they have no scruples whatsoever. And the next Irish ninja magic. I went to National Guard Information Technology School in Vegas last year. My instructors know Vegas police officers who also serve in the National Guard. I'm tempted to inform them of this situation. Please do. Please do. I have informed police and other law enforcement here to no avail, unfortunately. So anything you can do to get the word out to law enforcement or media or just people you might think are interested, sharing it online, I would be very grateful. And then he adds, I already sent them pics of Mark, which you misspell. It's with a K, not a C, in a group chat some of us are a part of. No one responded. Okay. Maybe if they're mostly Irish, that might be a cause of it. It's hard to get people's attention even here in America. And I would guess more so if you're overseas. But I do appreciate the support so much from overseas. It really is a story of not only national but global importance, in my view, and just interest. I think it's a fascinating story with so many twists and turns. It's stranger than fiction. Australian Opal comes back again and says, no one is watching because despite your best intentions, you make no sense. I mean, I'm doing the best I can to present the story, and I understand why it might make no sense to you, because I've never done anything like this before. But, and like I said, it requires some investment of your time to go back and look at the videos and get the background. And then he says, the way you act, the way you think is not normal. You need to understand that. I don't understand that, and I wish you'd explain it to me. Because other people get it, and I'm just not. Again, the public-facing side of all this, presenting it to the public, is extremely challenging. Point in fact, you're showing us the 4 cameras on the phone. We can't see shit. Yeah, that's because I was showing them on the TikTok live instead of the YouTube. I'm sorry. Then he says, deleted, blocked, removed from recommendations. Just go away. See ya. All right, so I guess you love Mark Niemczyk, and I hope you're very happy together. Have you set a date yet? Australian Opal, president of the Mark Niemczyk fan club. Rico Dog, a little more positive. I think people care. They just aren't as easily triggered as you. Well, I wouldn't say I'm triggered. I would say I'm outraged, as any right-thinking person would be. If you knew what I've been through, you wouldn't dismiss me that easily. I've taken great pains and made great sacrifices to tell the truth about this notorious scammer who is just audacious in his scamming, who, after I exposed him, kept at it shamelessly, and then went on to retaliate against me. And if you want to call that triggered, you can. But I don't think you know what you're talking about. And I paused the TikTok live before, and now I'm going to pause this live, unless anybody has any questions. Thanks for the positive feedback, everybody, and I'll see you soon.